It's a shot session.
Permanent insurance really are more like a wealth accumulation tool, right? Okay. So like I said about an investor that wants to be able to, you know, flip a house, yeah, has right, the amount, can put it in there, continue to grow interest on the money, use it at a very low percent loan rate, put it back in and go. My children all have it for college because when I looked at that between a 529 plan, it made more sense for me with the policy because it's not as restrictive, right? So a 529 college plan is for college. That's what it's designed for, yeah, specifically. I have a 22-year-old. He is not in college. My mom got him a 529 plan. He's not. Well, now, right? So now what happens is if they, you know, I can either, you know, transfer to the little ones. I could do that. Okay. I could withdraw it out, and now I'm going to pay a penalty on it because I didn't utilize it for school, and get taxed on it, right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we're weighing our options. We're weighing our options, you know, because we could pull it out and just dump the money inside of his life insurance plan, which he has 3 of, so that he can accumulate, right? Because I'm thinking long-term events, right? Like when he wants to buy a house. Right. You know, I want him to have a down payment, or when my little ones, if they do choose to go to college, be able to utilize that policy to, you know, take a loan out to pay for college so that they don't have to worry about student loans like their mom did. They have lots of student loans.
We still paying. We all
still paying. Have a lot of student loans, right?
Student loans.
Oh, you know.
Get rid of them.
Especially if they want to go away to college. But let's just say that like my oldest, and they get into a union, they don't want to go to college, which makes total sense.
Right. You
I'm totally for the trades, you know.
Yes.
He's making money, no debt. I'm for that.
Focus on what you want to do now.
Exactly.
Do it. Yeah.
Then they have the options, right? Maybe they themselves want to open a business and they need startup capital. They could pull it from there, right? Again, but plans like that are not, at least for adults, I'll say for adults, they're not like $50 plan. Like that's just not what you're doing with that. And I'm very honest about, could you start it with something like that? Sure. Could you? Sure. Right. However, I need you to know, without you putting more into it, it's not really gonna maximize what it can do. And that's where people talk about structuring. Like any kind of like TikTok, YouTube, anything, they're always gonna say, well, if it's not structured properly, or it needs to be structured properly, right? Yeah. That's what they mean. Because a lot of, unfortunately, just like there's bad mechanics, there's bad doctors, there's bad lawyers, there's not so great insurance professionals or financial professionals. And so that's why you want to ask certain questions and make sure that it makes sense for you. And they should be asking you questions. Like you should be doing more talking. Like right now, I know I'm doing more talking, but when I'm sitting,
because you have to educate us.
But when I'm sitting there, I want to know, like, what is your retirement goal? Because that's you know, people use that as an alternative form of retirement. That's what me and my husband are doing. So we're both business owners. Right. That's what we're utilizing, right? What's your retirement goal? You know, if you had a magic wand, like what would you envision? Are you close to that? What have you done? What have you heard of? You know, what does your budget look like? Let's look at what your insurable need is, right? Everyone's like, $1 million would be cool. But if you have 5 kids and a mortgage, $1 million will go in 2 years. Yeah. Right?
I mean, mortgage, yeah.
It will, right?
No, it will. When you look at money, we think like $1,000 when we were kids. It's so much. But now it's like with the inflation, right? Like all these things, like are you keeping pace with inflation? You know, what would be a comfortable number for you? Are you saving? Right. If you are saving, how are you saving? Like you have to tease down on these questions. So whoever you're talking to should be asking you all these questions. Put all these variables into consideration.
For sure. Like I get a lot of people are like, hey, can you tell me what this is? And I can't.
I gotta understand you first to know what you're getting into.
Right, because if it is risk management, then why that number? Why did you select that number? Because you think it's a lot? Because $100,000 is not a lot. No. It's not. That's like someone's annual salary and they're living check to check. Yeah. You know, and I always tell people, like, if you pass away today, how long would you want your wife or husband
to feel good?
Like supplement your income. Right. Especially in my house, we're a 2-income house. So if one of us gets sick or hurt or pass away, like that would be devastating because we're two-income house.
Both to pay.
Everything we live our lives, our vacations, our bills, our groceries, everything is based on 2 incomes coming in a month.
Right.
If one of those stop, one, how long could I last like that?
Right.
And 2, how long would I want to last like that?
Yeah.
And I always factor in, especially if you have kids, I always take the age of the youngest child. Because that, legally, you are responsible until they're 18, right? And so all these questions have to be factored in, even when we're talking about permanent plans. Sometimes I talk to people, and as much as they love the idea of what the permanent cash value and an index universal life can do,
right,
it's just not a good fit because their budget indicates that they're a little tighter and they have a higher insurable need. So let's figure this part out first.
Right.
And then let's do this part. Because for me, this is the wealth accumulation side of it. This is saying, once we've protected all of these assets, now let's look at how we can grow your wealth portfolio in this manner. There's tons of different ways to do it. I know that.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with those ways. But I do meet people who say, hey, I want a return. I don't like the loss in the market. I like the idea that I can borrow against it. I like the idea that I can continue growing interest even though I borrowed against it. And guess what? If I don't pay back that loan, they just pull it from my death benefit and my family still has money and they don't have any debt. Right? But I need to understand that.
If that's the, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a magician. If you tell me you got 20 bucks,
how we gonna do this, my man?
I don't know. You know what I mean? We'll figure something out. I don't know, but it ain't gonna be this piece, you know?
Right.
And so, you know, you just want to make sure that it makes sense for you. There's no right or wrong. Everyone's gonna have their belief system.
Right.
Right? Like I just told you, that is the way I'm utilizing it for my retirement. But that might not be somebody else's plan. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
Right? It's just we gotta figure out what that is.
What we dealing with and stuff.
Yeah.
What was I know I've read something and I'm gonna act like I read it all the way through.
Okay.
But it was a question as to how to avoid MEC.
A Mac. Ooh, that's technical, bro.
Yeah, bro, I was reading.
Were you prepping for me? Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
Let me figure something out.
Oh my goodness. No, that's good. And you have friends, which is great, which I'm assuming is in the industry, so you have good counsel on your side. So a MAC is called a modified endowment contract, and it's more specific to the permanent plans of insurance. Has nothing to do with the term.
It's a shot session.